It's on, is it?
It's on, yeah.
Thank you, yeah. Well, let's Colin here, bloody going here. Now, I've watched several videos on, about 45 videos, but you kind of sort of need to sort of recappy things. For example, I went back to one of my books, Let's Get Well by Adele Davis, and it's a fantastic book. It gives some of the quotes have been from that book on orthomolecular medicine, and that's very, very good, excellent book. Well, anyway, I was looking through it and I happened to see that I'd underlined something there. But at the time when I was looking at it, I thought, goodness, I've got that underlined. And I wasn't aware of it at the time, and yet I had it underlined. And so a second time or third time around like that kind of makes it more kind of, you're more aware in that of this sort of, you can be there at the time, but then it sort of goes away, and then you recap on it. So it's good in my videos. I've got 45 videos on. It's good to sort of recap and sort of and consolidate. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for too. To consolidate my position. Now, so I want to have a look at on this video today. I've got about 35 minutes about this marriage thing and living together. Now, I've touched on this before, but see, some people too, they, for the first time in that, they're looking at my videos and they come across this and they haven't even seen it before. Now, we're having a look at the situation where you have an ordinary friend, okay? Now, you don't just have one ordinary friend till death us do part. You have one friend. You could have the whole world as your friend if it were possible, but you don't have this problem with friendship as you do with marriage or living together, or even a girlfriend or boyfriend as well. They seem to think that you're stuck on that, and if you get another girlfriend or fuck somebody else, then you're cheating business. But they don't do that on with an ordinary friend. You could introduce it and say, oh, Jack, this is Bill, friend of mine. Bill, this is Jack, friend of mine. And they both shake hands. You know, he doesn't say to you, Jack doesn't say to you, how dare, I thought I was your friend. How dare you talk, what the cheek you've got. Goodness, I thought I was your friend. You know, like they do in marriage. You can't fuck somebody else. You're cheating if you go. The whole thing doesn't make sense. You should, and then you want to hear some of the massive arguments and things that go on with this marriage thing, or all living together. You want to hear these vicious arguments. You heard of some of them, you'd understand. They shout at each other sometimes, and she might say to him things like, oh, I do something and it's no good, is it? But you do the same thing. Oh, then all the excuses in the world, isn't it? Fucking shit house, something like that. And he doesn't like being spoken to like that. You walk towards her, grab her by her wrist and draw her into him, and she might say, oh, you're going to be a woman beater now, are you? And this is the kind of thing that often goes on in marriages and living together. I had a guy just tell me just the other day, just a couple of days ago, or maybe yesterday, he said, oh no, it wasn't yesterday. He said that he was holding the door back because she'd smashed a heavy chair on his head, and she was, and he was holding the door back somehow, but she called the police on the cell phone, of course, and the police come and nabbed him. Now that was his side of the story. Now, that's a problem too. You get one side of the story and not the other. You hear the other side, you can get a different story. But it's pretty obvious that there was a problem with him, because why was the police called? And he told me that she smashed this chair on his head, and he was bleeding. And so I'd hardly think that he would say that if he didn't have work. But there must obviously been problems, because what shall I say? To get the police and that. So you see, this is the sort of thing. I mean, you want to hear some of these massive arguments and carrying on, and with couples, married or not. Besides, what is marriage? What's the difference between marriage and living together? Paperwork. A man can't marry you unless he has a license to marry. You can't get married unless you have a license. I think I found out yesterday, actually, that only one license is required, I think, if you only get married, and then the woman, I think, carries... she doesn't need a license as well, I think, from what I hear. It was just yesterday. So anyway, he's got to have a marriage license, and then the guy's got to have a marriage license to get married. And then man makes up the wording of the of what you're to say, and man tells you who's to marry. He said, oh, if you're a pastor or something, then you can marry. So you can't marry anybody until until you get a license, until a man is happy that you are in a position to marry. And anyway, the final nail in the coffin is when you're actually married, when you actually get married. The point of time, the very point that you from single to marriage, is when usually a man, sometimes of course a woman, says, I pronounce you man and wife. And then you think, oh, we're now man and wife. But what? Who told you? Who made you? Who said that you got married? A man, usually. So it's all man. Man says you got to have a marriage license. Man says you got to have a marriage license. He makes the wording. He decides whether it's suitable or what. And then finally he puts the nail in the coffin when he says, I pronounce you man and wife. But you can't get married without a marriage license for a start. So how can that be a sanctified thing? Well, some couples go into this religious sanctified thing. It turned out to be symbolic, actually, in the Old Testament. And it's come down through time. It's just a traditional thing that you pick one girl or one guy, you marry him for the rest of your life, or what he's supposed to be. But we don't do that, as I say, with ordinary friends. You don't just have one friend till death us do part. As I say, you could have Jack, your friend, and you could say, Jack, this is a friend of mine, Bill. Bill, this is Jack. And they shake hands, and you can have as many friends as you like. And yet, people do a stupid thing, like choosing one woman or one guy the rest of their life, and now they can't, if they do anything to another woman or another guy, then they're cheating. I remember one case here in New Zealand, this guy, I'm pretty sure it was New Zealand actually, this guy went to a parlour and he was escorted behind a curtain. But the woman behind the curtain was his partner or his wife, which I can't remember which is his partner or his wife. And so you see how embarrassing that could be. And see, they're both doing it. But stupid in the first place, it's rather like carrots, as I gave an example before. Just to decide that you're going to eat carrots for the rest of your life. It sort of doesn't make sense. I mean, why eat just carrots? I mean, why can't you have a parsnip or that? And I think I put this video on, but I'm not sure how long ago. But I sort of want to recap on it because that was very important. Because you see, you got this cheating business going on, and you don't have that problem with ordinary friends. A friend doesn't say, Oh, I thought you had a friend, you had another friend, you've been cheating on me. You know, I mean, you can stay together with a lady perhaps, or she can stay with you perhaps, but as long as you are free to go to another one and she brings home a guy or you bring home a girl, and because some of them go into threesomes and foursomes too. Well, that's a good bloody idea too, because you haven't, it's the same person all the bloody time. But you see, when you get married together, as I say, you want to hear the arguments and that sometimes go on between them. It's I was talking to a friend of mine, and he was a Christian cunt, a Christian fella, and he what should I say? He spoke right with his wife right there in the room, right there, and he said to me, he said to me, he said, I, 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 I couldn't live. If it wasn't for the Lord or something, he said, I couldn't live with her. And he said that right in her presence, that he couldn't live with her unless he got divine help. He shouldn't need divine help to prop up their marriage if it was all sweet and everything. And why does he need some kind of help? It wasn't like that when they first got married. And I know a person in Wairau, my hometown is a little town between Napier and Gisborne on the coast called Wairau. I think there's a lot of gang. Unfortunately, there's a lot of dope going on in Wairau. It was pointed out on the news that there were a few places in New Zealand. One of them was my hometown, Wairau. Only about 3,000 or 4,000 people at the time. I'm not sure I don't know how many there are at the moment. And says, well, anyway, this particular woman, I believe that she was laughing and crying at the same time. She was so happy with this cunt that she was going to marry. Pretty sure they got married. Well, some years later, I went back to Wairau, and there he was, staying with Mum. It probably naturally been more than likely a separation or divorce. She could have died, that's possible, or something could have happened, but the most likely thing would be the usual story, divorced or separated. I know another friend of mine in Wellington, he was the manager of a health shop, and I suppose I'd give you, or seeing I mentioned the health shop, I better not give his name, but I don't think he would mind his first name. You just give first names, can be all right anyway. But anyway, he told me that, to mean that when you get married, you should stay married. He really emphasised, he really believed that marriage should be an ongoing thing, you know. Well, anyway, he got married, and what happened was, I was in the shop one time, and he said something. It was something he said, what seemed to be different, or what he said. There was something he said. I've forgotten what it was, but there was something he said at the time. Well, anyway, a few months later, there he was, separated or divorced. I don't know. Yeah, I think he got married. Yeah, he got married, I think. So I don't know what they do, whether they go for divorces. Some of them do, of course, but whether some just separate and just bugger off and just don't even get a divorce, maybe. I don't know what they do, some of them. So anyway, he told me, he said, some people just want to argue, because that was his side of the story. As I say, you've got really to know properly, you've got to go to the other side, get their side. But even then you can't get always the right answers, because they could lie, tell lies, you know. But it's pretty obvious, Peter, that they were arguing anyway, so maybe both were in the wrong way. So he didn't want to see her again, actually. He told me he didn't want to see her anymore. So here is a man who said, marriage should be adhered to regardless, and even he couldn't make it. Now, there's another friend of mine in Wairau, my hometown. I could mention his first name, Jinna. Now, Jinna and I were faster using the average person. We'd be going along on our bicycles, and I'd see Jinna and I'd say, Jinna. He was going fast, and I'd be going fast, and he'd say, Kinna. They'd call me Kinna at school because I when I comb my hair, I just used to comb it straight across. I couldn't be bothered getting back to the back of my hair to comb it down at the back. So it stuck up. So they called me Jinna, a sea egg. And that was my nickname. And still today, if anybody from school could approach me and say, oh, Jinna, you just here. And then it would good because it's from school days. But if anybody else called me Jinna who wasn't at school, well, then it wouldn't work. And anyway, Jinna, he got married, and I think I heard that some minister or something said not to marry this girl. But anyway, he got married. And then after a while, Jinna was not the same guy. It was though a blanket came upon him. He didn't want to talk, and just not the old Jinna I knew him. Just a blanket came over him. Well, anyway, this went on for some years. I was talking to him outside of Doctor's surgery, Dr. Riddle's surgery in Wairoa. Wairoa has a river run through the town like Wanganui does. And so anyway, and this went on. So he would talk to you, but and he told me how she was bleeding or something. And well, anyway, one day after that, I was in the main street of Wairoa, Marine Parade, and Jinna walked up to me with a grin from ear to ear, with his hand out to shake hands, and there he was. He was back to the old Jinna that I knew him, and the reason was this particular woman, and he had I'm not sure whether he divorced or separated but he must have been some kind of separation from her, and that was what was causing his trouble. Now this thing can also apply with women, of course, too. They separate, and they were okay until this cunt came into their life and that. And I know another woman in Wairoa. She was a happy woman, and she married this cunt. And he's been to our house too in Wairoa, and I wasn't happy with him either, actually. So there she was, more unhappy now in her marriage than when she was single. She used to be a happy woman. And that was two, and then there was another one. I was flatting here in Wellington, in Mount Vic, actually, just by the Basin Reserve. And anyway, this flatmate I had, this woman, she was telling me about her love life with this cunt, and she was really opened everything out to me. She really opened, just completely open to me about this love she had for this guy. And one day she'd really fallen for him, and she just loved him. She just fallen for this cunt. So just imagine if they had got married. We'll go on now. Then a few weeks or so later, they went on the ferry probably to Picton from Wellington, or perhaps to Christchurch or whatever. Used to go to Christchurch on the ferry, but I think for some time they just go to Picton, I think. But anyway, he was telling her things on the boat, and way he was talking, she actually saw through him what kind of guy he really was. He was a psychiatric guy, because that's where she met him, in a psychiatric ward or something. And maybe I don't know whether she was all my flatmate, so she didn't go, she wasn't in a psychiatric hospital herself at the time. Maybe she was getting treatment. I'm not sure about that side about her, but he was a psychiatric guy. And she didn't want him after that. And she'd say to him, go away, Denham. She didn't want him. Well, let's go back now to when they'd peaked. Supposing they'd gone to a registry office and quickly got married, and they didn't want to lose each other, or she didn't want to lose him, so she might have made a quick marriage out of it. And then a few days later, she found out what he was really like. Then if you're going to go by the Old Testament, that you can't marry again, see, it's all symbolic, the Old Testament, like in marriage and in the seventh-day rest. So normally, in the Old Testament, you can separate, but you're not allowed to marry a bloody again. So that means you're not allowed to fuck a girl can't fuck a guy ever bloody again if she's been married, and a guy can't fuck a girl. Fortunately, in New Zealand, they go by New Zealand law, Christians do. So when they separate, they can get married a bloody again, because the New Zealand law does so they operate on New Zealand law. But according to the Old Testament, they'd be in this bloody adultery thing. But as I say, it was symbolic. if I got time to explain it. Now we have another guy in the United States. He was going to marry this girl, and his parents knew that he wasn't the girl for him. She wasn't the girl for him. So they used some wisdom. They said to their boy, they said to go and go and stay with her and her parents over the holidays. So he did that, and I saw a different woman there. She would shout at her parents. She wouldn't get up in the morning. He didn't want her after that. Now, had they got married, then that kind of woman would open out, like with guys too. She marries this guy because they're both often on their best behaviour. One's polite to one, and so the other one's polite back. And so that what you give to somebody, they usually give back to you. If you're nasty to them, they'll be nasty to you. If you give them something, they might give you something back. So usually, often they're polite to one another when they're courting. But what happens when they get married? And then you see you've got the problem of institutionalized with each other. And you've got the same wavelengths, you've got the same thought pattern. I mean, it's okay to have him or her as their friend, but not their only friend, you see, till death us do part. That's the problem, you see. And people recognise it, well, they don't always recognise about the seventh day's rest either. Whereas in one of the modern translations, I meant to find out about this actually from the smartphone, but it was talking about the seventh day rest and at least one other thing. I think there's two other things. And the modern translation put it together and said, we know these things to be symbolic. Sometimes these modern translations, like the Amplified Bible and that, bring things out more clearly. And so therefore, the seventh day rest, as strict as what it was, turned out to be symbolic. And that's what the seventh day rest, that's what the marriage thing was as well. Because if you look at it carefully, you see it just doesn't measure up. I mean, why do you want to stick to one girl for the rest of your life? Or she to one guy for the rest of her life? I mean, it doesn't make sense. What do you want to do that for? Just as like an ordinary friend, you don't just decide you're going to have one ordinary friend till death us do part. And then if you've got another friend and he found out, then you say, I thought you were my friend. You see, it doesn't make sense. And, like eating carrots for the rest of your life. Supposing that carrots was a complete food. So all were complete foods, that are iodine in them and good quality protein, etc. So it's still, you shouldn't need to stick to one food. Why not have a parsnip for a change or something, and something like that? Why just stick to one person for the rest of your life? Spend all this bloody money. He goes and spends thousands of smackers on a wedding ring or something, and I look in the jeweller's shops, and I think the average one for a wedding ring and that, I think rings was around about 9,000, I think. And one was going there for something about, what price was it going for now? It's about 32,000 or something is one. In fact, there's a ring I was just reading in the paper. I don't know if it's an engagement ring. It's a ring anyhow. It's worth 1 million smackers for one ring. I was watching a program and on TV. This pawnbroker. He bought off her for about 600,000. He bought off a few diamonds, a few sort of stones, what they call them, precious stones, and she wanted the money to buy an apartment. So therefore, then the apartment and the few things that she had in her hand, like a fan, how fans is about a third way round. Well, she had them like this, and he bought them off for something about 600,000, and it's worth the same as an apartment, and only a few things in your hand, worth the same as an apartment. Goodness, I mean, it doesn't make sense. Because that's the rings, they go buy this engagement ring and wedding ring, and then when they separated. Now, some people might say to me, look, we've been married for 7 years, And we've had a lovely marriage. We hardly ever argue at all. And we were very happy together. Okay, well, let's get back to our ordinary friend situation. They decide to make an ordinary friend till death us do part. And he said, oh, my friend here, we've known each other, we don't need it, we're happy together. But that means you still can't have another friend, You should be able to have as many friends as you like, which they do, but not in this marriage situation, you see. And, excuse me, been foggy, I've been busking in the cold wind when you're standing in a position, it's like standing in a draft. And I'm actually busked because I'm supporting a work in Africa, actually, a big work, lots of people get healed. So if you see me in Courtney Place in Wellington at night, late at night, see me busking, and I'm fundraising. It's cold out there, but I do it for help other people overseas. Whereas my money coming from the government is enough for me, but I like to put up with the cold and that, so I go out there busking, and my time's getting along here to 26 minutes here. Now, so you might say to me, well, look, what are we supposed to do now? What do you want us to do now? We've got my partner here, say you're married or you're not married. Now, what are we going to do? We've got a child, and we've got another one on the way. What are we going to do? Well, let's have a look at your friend, the ordinary friend. Your ordinary friend. Like, you can have as many friends as you like. So just one of these kind of friends, just an ordinary friend. How are you going to answer him? He says to you, oh, I've got a baby, we've got a baby coming on, and so on. Well, okay, have a baby, but just don't, just specifically just touch, well, she's not, like, he's still free, regardless if they have a baby or not. He doesn't change things to have as many friends as he likes, just because he has a baby. And so that's where you get to the correct answer when you say to me, look, we're a couple, what are we supposed to do? Well, he should always be free as the birds. See, you should have the whole world as your friend if it was possible. So anyway, what should I say? So the idea then is just to carry on, and you can bring home your girlfriend, say another girlfriend, and she bring home a boyfriend, and it's normal, Otherwise, you're sticking to yourself, and you're sticking to this bloody cheating business, which doesn't make sense. You see, it doesn't. Why did you want to just choose one woman to be with you all the time? Why not? Why this one person? Just like an ordinary friend. If he chose you or you chose him, and you and him are just to be friends only, he's not allowed to have another ordinary friend at all. It doesn't make sense. So it's the same with this marriage. I'm not sure about it. Or if you do live together, well, it's not so bad as long as you just don't stick to that one person. So some couples, they get around quite well, and they have threesomes and foursomes. Well, that's a better idea than you go. That's good, and it makes more variety in that, instead of just eating carrots for the rest of your life, and so on. So that's what I wanted to get over again here now. It's this time now. I've got to be very careful. This time it looks like I got. Yes, I got about 29 minutes. I've only got about 5 minutes left. So let's put on another video. These videos, they run out of time on me, and but I think I got enough message over to say that the Sabbath day's rest in the Old Testament was symbolic. Even Jesus himself didn't worry about the Sabbath day. One time the disciples came to him, and he said to them, look, he says, fuck me dead, you sick cunts, coming to bloody round to me like this. Look, what did he say to them? He said, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath, or vice versa. And then one time these disciples went and did something to corn with their hands or something, which you're not allowed to do on the Sabbath day. It happened to be the Sabbath day. So they told Jesus, "Hey, look at your cunts here. Look what they're doing here. They're that you're not allowed to do that on the Sabbath day." So Jesus told them something about Moses or something with some bread or something, some bread that was supposed to be got to a sacrifice or something to be something. I've forgotten what it is, but you could find out on your smartphone. I didn't get my facts right there, but he reminded them, and Moses or somebody ate it, and he pointed that out to them. I see if you could find that. You could probably find it on your smartphone about that. If you looked up, you could say, well, they corn. Look it up into corn, maybe, or you could ask the smartphone, yeah, and explain to the smartphone, and it'll probably tell you where it is. For example, in the Old Testament somewhere it says uses the word piss. The English thee and thou Bible, it comes out to drink your own piss with you. Something about piss in the Old Testament. So a woman I was talking to on the phone, she already found it. She had a smartphone. She just looked up piss and then brought it up. I think it was in 1 Kings or 2 Kings. That's in the thee and thou Bible. So that means they used to use the word piss in 1611, but now they don't, and it's the so-called swear word in that. But anyway, the whole thing is all just a mess in New Zealand this year. And as I told you, look at these arguments. You want to see some of these arguments, these vicious arguments, and sometimes he hits her, and that they come home drunk, and things like that. And so sometimes she just separates, and it's harder for the woman, especially if she's got children. See, I had a flatmate here, and he got this woman in, and it was terrible. And she walked out on him 2 or 3 times, but both times, and she took the baby. Yeah, they had a baby. She strapped it on her back and went out somewhere twice or 3 times, and she did that. And so it makes it difficult for a woman who's got a baby, and that. But you see, so this I want to point out this video. Now, what's much time now? I've got to. It's been half an hour, 30. Oh, I said, what's the time now? It's 20. Well, it's 30. I think it's 32 minutes. I think I better close this. It's in the threes there. I think it's 25, about 30 odd minutes. I better close this video. Just haven't got time. So, so therefore, then, if you're married or living together and you've got children or what, then, as I say, just look to what the answer would be with an ordinary friend. See, if he has children, does that make any difference to you being his friend? He said, I've got children now, it doesn't make any difference, So you're a friend, but he's not your only friend. So it doesn't make any difference. You can just bring home a girl and she brings home a guy. And you sort of, you're sticking to the same person till death us do part, And the whole thing is, just doesn't make sense. But I really haven't got time. I really haven't finished this, actually. So time's up here. So if it goes over 40 minutes, I don't think they give it now over 40 minutes, because my friend can't find the video. He's helping me. So, but if it's in the 30s, they push it through. I want to thank them too from oh goodness, where are we now? It's gone out of my head. Not a big deal. Not Instagram. YouTube, yeah. So the YouTube authorities always let my videos go through, so I'd like to thank them very much. So anyway, I better close because it looks like my time's just about up here. Might even be 38 minutes. I can't quite see properly here. It's 31 minutes. So it's 34. So I better close. So I'll just put on another video. So there it is then. If you have couples, well, see if you can do something about it by freeing yourself up and just realise that she's just one friend and you're one friend to her and so on, and you're still together, you're not going to separate, you're not going to give each other up. Well, you might sort of separate in the sense that just staying together only, but you're still friends, it's just that you need other friends are not saying, well, this bloody cheating business. Well, anyway, I must close, so we'll see how we go on another video. I'm not sure when I'll put it on, maybe next week or maybe today I might put on another one, might follow through on this. So anyway, in the meantime, this is Colin signing off, and I'll catch up with you again then. I've got all my other videos on too. I've got about 45 videos on, you can find them, and also if you could let your friends know and that, we can build it up, and I've got a lot to do for New Zealand yet, and I've got a lot to do for New Zealand yet, as been on my videos and that, so see if you can find it, as most videos as you can find it, of the 45 odd, and let your friends and that know, so we get as many viewers as we can, and we can get things done and make New Zealand the great nation. Well, I must close in, so bye for now. This is Colin signing off a bloody game. So bye for now. Bye.